Darryl Richard Knox was buried in Perkins, Oklahoma. His family and friends were not just unhappy. They were disturbed over the circumstances surrounding his death. Knox and Bill Ellis were stopped by Stillwater police early Saturday morning. Ellis ran away. Knox became involved in a car chase with the Stillwater police. His car collided with a policeman's car, and they both slid into this ditch. Officer Richard Vaughn told investigators he pulled his gun and approached Knox's car. He thought he saw a gun in Knox's hand, and he fired. His widow hasn't been able to find Bill Ellis since Ellis spoke with Stillwater police, and she still has some doubts about the official explanation.
I don't know why they can just shoot you like that without knowing for sure something. I know that the policeman didn't know that he didn't have a gun, but it looks like they would have some kind of training to where they could tell them to put their hands up, and if they don't, then do something or stay behind their car doors and yell at them to do it or something besides just firing one time and killing him.
The Knox family had a meeting with the Stillwater Chief of Police, Harry Driggs. Driggs had no comment for the media, but the Stillwater Police Department did give out this press release. Carney Police Chief Ted O'Donnell was at the meeting between the Knox family and Driggs. He said if the facts are as Driggs stated them, then Officer Vaughn's actions were justified.
He failed to stop, the way I understand. Two cars were in pursuit of him. One was in front of him, one was behind him. It could have been the other way. The police officer could have went to the car. He could have got shot.
This convenience store in Carney is raising money for the Knox family. But Mrs. Knox realizes the future is going to be hard, both for herself and her daughter.
He didn't have any insurance or anything. All we've got is our house. And I don't want our car back.
Bill Ross, Action 4, in Carney.
The festival became a place of retreat for business people dropping by on their lunch hour and for children on school excursions. While many enjoy the cultural significance of the festival, the younger crowd has a creative corner all their own. The young Picassos display their creations on the festival promotion posters, while others are learning about early Oklahoma homes. With yards of colorful yarn, they're weaving a true made-in-Indian territory teepee. By the week's end, the weave wonder should be complete. For the youngsters that would rather have someone else tackle the artwork, there's body painting. The young faces become the canvas for graphic designs. From lightning to tears to terrifying spiders, face artistry is a favorite of the younger festival goers, and numerous other exhibits and fun centers are at the festival especially for them. Millions of American dollars, food, and staples have poured into Poland in recent months, Americans helping others in need. While America's old glory flies free, the people of Poland suffer military restraint. Their precious treasure of freedom has been taken, and America fights to help. Among the helping hands are Oklahomans. The state chapter of the Polish American Congress has launched an intensive 60-day campaign to raise food and money for the Polish people. Coordinator Emily Briggs says Poland's problems are real and immediate.
We hope that something the people will get. They'll be not starving and not dying.
For Oklahomans that want to help, what do you say? What is your response to that?
To Oklahoma, I believe Oklahoma will always have open heart, and I believe Oklahoma is a very conservative state who will do, and in some way, fighting the communists.
Emily Briggs is joined by thousands of Oklahomans willing and wanting to help the people of Poland. They say the time is running out and that the fight for freedom is everyone's business. If you would like to help them in their fight, you may do so by calling 3490. Debbie Mash, Action 4.
Well, you know, all you can, if you tell people, in my opinion, that their utility rates will be lowered, you're being dishonest with people. As long as we see increasing fuel cost and increasing cost in terms of building and maintenance, just inflationary cost, as you and I are experiencing as everyday citizens, then the cost of utilities will be increasing. And it is the role of the Corporation Commission to assure the ratepayers, or hopefully assure them, that they will have the lowest rate possible. And I will certainly work and try to work with our staff to develop the facts that assures them of this.
The business building at Central State University was built 20 years ago. 24 faculty members office here. 5 of them, one of them retired, have developed cancer. Is that a coincidence? The business building is built no different from the other buildings on campus. The same construction materials were used, yet there are some people who believe there's a connection between the business building and the number of people who have developed cancer. The cancers are not the same, but it still prompted some faculty members to become concerned enough to ask for an investigation.
Apparently, a group of faculty in the school had, in a very informal manner, discussed the topic of cancer. And they got to counting the number of faculty involved, and lo and behold, determined that there might be a significantly higher proportion of our people with cancer than one would normally expect.
The State Health Department will assist in the investigation, but so far, no plans for any real testing of the building or its materials.
But first and foremost, numbers of cancer and types of cancer. Number of people that, are in that work area. And with that, those little bits of information, that would give us an indication of whether we proceed further or whether this is, might be considered background information or background levels.
The Health Department survey may take weeks to complete. In the meantime, classes will continue as normal in the business building, just as they have for the past 20 years, before anyone noticed anything strange or coincidental. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at Central State University.
City Manager Irving Frank has been in this spot before. Last September, he narrowly escaped ouster over the city's sanitation strike. Few people are clear what the charge against Franks was this time, and for that reason, some new members of the council felt they should postpone the vote. But the debate went ahead, and the council knew it would be a sensitive issue.
And I would hope that personalities and personal vendettas will not have to be dealt with both in the comments made or in the vote taken by this council.
No citizen spoke against the city manager. The crowd overwhelmingly supported Franks and said he was the victim of a power play.
And my concern is that we have Ms. Zachary and Ms. Andrews who have no experience by training in management or by working, are going to pass judgment on Mr. Frank, who is indeed qualified by education, by training, and has been an outstanding citizen of Midwest City, and I'm very proud of him.
Delay was urged again, but the council wanted to get the issue out of the way and get on to other business. The vote was taken.
Let the record show that the mayor voted no. The motion dies.
The mayor's deciding vote pleased the crowd. Irving Frank's problems are stifled for the time being, but 2 members of the council are strongly opposed to him, and others could be persuaded. Carl Schnitzer, Action 4 in Midwest City.
They had 3.8 million tons of wheat scheduled for delivery. They've already delivered 3.4 million metric tons, and so it would leave 400,000 tons available at the most. But if we could get that, you know, it's every little bit helps. It's a very small amount, though. And I don't anticipate that war dragging on or escalating to the point that that they couldn't ship wheat out next year, or even ship the remaining 400,000 tons if the dealers were confident enough to order it.
In Oklahoma, what would happen is if you died without a will, is all your property would go to your wife and your children. Your wife would take 1/3 of the property, your children would take 2/3, and the 2/3 would be split equally among them.
Hundreds of attorneys all over Oklahoma are manning the telephones, spending a few hours away from their office to give people some free legal advice. The phones started ringing at 9 in the morning and they'll continue until 7 p.m. This particular phone bank was set up at the Channel 13 public broadcast studio and will be telecast at 7 o'clock in the evening. The attorneys remain anonymous, and if they can't answer your questions, they refer you to the Oklahoma County Law Referral Service. But most of the time, your questions will be answered.
So there was one will with the same terms drafted for, there was one will drafted for both your husband and yourself, right? Okay, he has died. Have you executed any of the terms of that?
And how was this beneficial to the people of the state?
Well, many people think because of the imagined or real high cost of legal services that they may or may not have a legal problem. And so this gives them an opportunity to air their legal problem with a lawyer and determine whether, at least in the short conversation, they will know whether they have a legal problem or not.
In case you're wondering about the most common questions, they are questions relating to divorce, child alimony, and family disputes. But there's another subject that's also filling up the air, questions relating to the oil business. The phones may be ringing a long time on that one. If you have a legal question, call the number at 848-1608. 848-1608. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at Channel 13.
The Oklahoma Highway Patrol is not only concerned about the slippery road conditions here on Interstate 40, but they're also concerned about motorists paying more attention to a natural gas well blowout than they are about their driving. The flames do have a way of catching a driver's attention.
Officials had hoped the blowout could be brought under control with a lot of work and a little luck. But the 12,000 feet deep well produced too much gas for workers to handle the flames in one day. A conservative estimate is that the burning gas is costing at least $12,000 an hour to the well's owner. Fortunately, the fire could be directed away from the rig itself. Otherwise, the $8 million rig would be a very expensive pile of melted metal. Officials do have one worry that still concerns them.
We do not want the fire to go out. As long as the fire is burning, then we don't have to worry about the escaping gas surrounding in the areas surrounding here where the houses and businesses are at. As long as it's being burned off, then there's no danger. But should the fire go out at that time, the gas would pose an immediate danger to everyone in the area.
Roadblocks surrounded the well for most of the morning. Some residents finally were allowed to go back into their homes. And by afternoon, law enforcement officers were told they no longer needed to barricade streets. The gas well blowout was still going strong, but posing no real danger. Sunday has been set as the day when work crews expect things to be back in operational condition. That's when enough mud and water can be pumped into the well to reduce pressure. Until then, Canadian County will have its own burning landmark. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Calumet.
The full 2,100 GM workers were back on the job, but some of the equipment hadn't been used since January when the shifts were temporarily laid off. The entire plant had to be retooled to accommodate the A-bodied cars. The workers had to be retrained since they were used to the X-bodied system. As a result, there were some problems.
We shut down January 15th, and a lot of the conveyors haven't run much since then. We have a lot of new equipment for our new cars, and we have a lot of people on new jobs.
Work was slow for the GM workers. Many spent the afternoon looking for something to do. That's to be expected whenever a new operation goes into effect. Instead of churning out the usual 75 cars an hour, they'll be lucky to churn out 75 during the entire day. But nevertheless, some cars made it off the final line, greeted by a welcome back sign. Now we'll have to see how the American public greets the cars. Felecia, Action 4 at the General Motors plant.
Multiply numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator.
These ninth graders at Northwest Classen High School might have to take more classes than this year's seniors if they want to graduate in 1985. Oklahoma City school administrators think it would be beneficial for these students to take 2 additional classes between now and graduation day. The students could take more math or science or foreign languages. If the plan is approved by the school board, high school freshmen and sophomores will take 6 credit classes each semester, juniors at least 5 credit classes, and seniors a minimum of 4. Superintendent Tom Payzant supports the plan. Payzant says it's time to toughen things up.
I think there's a need to put more rigor into the high school curriculum and to make a statement that will convince students and the general public that the diploma can and will mean as much today as it has in the past.
The extra courses won't make Oklahoma City students experts in math or science or foreign languages, but Payzant hopes they'll add a dose of extra knowledge that will help today's students solve tomorrow's problems. Bill Ross, Action 4 at Northwest Classen High School.
When I first started my series on child abuse, this was nothing but a stretch of land. Well, now the concrete has been poured, and soon this will be 7,200 square feet, a home for abused children. And that home will be nestled here among the trees on 150th Street in Edmond. And this is how Project Genesis will look when complete in September. Dozens of children will be able to live in an environment like home. Numerous volunteers have offered their time and energy to build Genesis, and the man who has been instrumental with his energy to get moving on the project is Ed Sawson.
The series that Channel 4 did, that Newsbreaker series, was just instrumental in putting us over the top on the building because people just didn't understand. We talked about the stereotypes and what people thought child abuse was. And until Channel 4 aired that, and then the various meetings and so forth that we have attended from Genesis, people just don't know. But now they do, and they want to do something about it. So that's why we are, and that's how it's all happening.
When we aired my series, I visited a number of shelters where abused children live. I found most of them accommodating to the children's needs. But now with Genesis, abused children will have another place to go. Those places are needed too, because the number of child abuse cases is growing, not declining. Felecia, Action 4.
Any Oklahoma City neighborhood would like a new school, especially an old neighborhood with an old school like Eugene Field. Its doors opened 72 years ago. The builders in 1910 had no idea that their school, designed for 100 students, would someday hold 300. This cafeteria is a perfect example of the overcrowded conditions. Kids wait in long lines to get their meals and then sit elbow to elbow to eat them. Another problem is not everyone speaks English. 37 kids are going to special classes so they can understand their teachers and classmates. New language labs would help break down the language barrier. Dorothy Taylor is the legal guardian for a 7- and 9-year-old attending Eugene Field. She feels not only the children would benefit from a new school, but the community as well.
Yeah, they depend on the school for food. We made up Christmas baskets of food for the poor families in the area. We collected coats, winter coats this winter for people that couldn't afford them. And we have a good breakfast program there, which feeds just lots of kids that don't have breakfast. And so we just need the school.
Not everyone agrees with Dorothy. Constant flooding is only one reason Mary Gregory does not want a new school, especially not at the proposed site of McKinley Park.
They don't need to take over our park for that. They've got a good school up there. That school was built to last forever. It can be renovated at much less cost. But it would be a lovely piece of real estate to sell for the school board, because right across the street from it, they just zoned it for office buildings.
Despite protest, residents were told a year ago in a school board meeting here that they would have a new school, no strings attached. But then all the board heard were protests, no support. So they added a catch this week. Residents have to show that they want a school. So parents are now trying to drum up support. If they don't get that support, many questions will have to be answered. Like, where will the kids go to school next year?
Thank you.
Eugene Field, as well as Willard School, are scheduled to close after this term. Sherry Sellers, Action 4 in Northwest Oklahoma City.
Brian Trepter stands out from the other graduates at South Oklahoma City Junior College. He was one of nearly 200 graduates Friday night. He was one of a handful of people graduating with a degree in sociology. What distinguishes Brian from the other graduates is the way he earned his degree and the friends who came with him to commencement. The friends are guards at the McAllister State Prison. Brian is a convicted murderer serving a life term. He was convicted in 1978 of first-degree murder and the death of an elderly Bartlesville man. Brian admits he was at odds with society.
I was messing up. I couldn't cope with it. And I needed an academic study of society. I was pretty well narrow-minded out there, and I really didn't know what was going on.
Brian earned his degree through a talkback TV program. He says he will continue his education even though he may not be paroled. His education makes him feel better about himself, and self-esteem sets any man free.
Associate in Arts and Sociology.
Charles Schnitzer, Action 4, at South Oklahoma City Junior College.
This afternoon, school spirit was high as members of the junior class at Northwest Classen High School put on the finishing touches for tonight's senior prom. More than 80 dedicated students have put in hours of planning and preparation to transform a modern ballroom into the land of Camelot. Decorations carrying out the theme of King Arthur and his court during the Middle Ages will set the mood for a fanciful evening. Dressed in dungarees for these last toiling hours, utmost concern is given to every detail. Everything must be perfect when guests of the court arrive to spend a night in Camelot. When the smiles were right, the shot was taken, a painless preservation for the future. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
"27-year-old Felecia Meyers had only been at Mabel Bassett for about 3 months. The 5'2" Tulsa native was serving a 10-year sentence for larceny. She was seen about 7 a.m. in the prison's kitchen area where she worked, but she couldn't be found during a head count 30 minutes later.
She was able to leave her work site area by climbing out of a window on the first floor of this building, and from there we have learned that she proceeded to a fenced area south of the South Housing Unit, and she was able to climb both of those fences.
Corrections officers found the escapee's blood-stained clothes a few blocks away from the center. Meyers apparently cut herself on razor wire atop the security fences during her bid for freedom. Felecia Meyers was one of about 40 women living in double cells here at the Mabel Bassett Correctional Center. But center officials feel strongly her living arrangement had nothing to do with her escape. They say she was having family problems back in Tulsa. They feel strongly those problems caused her to go over the fence. Scott Wallace, Action 4, Northeast Oklahoma City.